Okay, I want to talk just a little bit about your evaluation Rogerian argument essay. Um, Ultimately, there are two things that you have to do. One, you have to evaluate something based on a set of criteria that you're going to set up in this essay. The other thing is that you have to acknowledge um, your opposition and find some common ground. So that's the Rogerian side of this argument. You can choose to evaluate anything that you want. It really doesn't matter as long as it's not one that has a full essay in the book. So eliminating those and also eliminating topics such as abortion or the death penalty simply because they're completely overdone. So find something, it could be just about anything, and evaluate it against a set of criteria. So in your introduction, you're actually going to establish the criteria. You're going to introduce in broad terms, this is the thing that I'm going to be evaluating, and these are the criteria that I'm going to use to do that. You'll finish with a thesis statement. I give you some examples here. One, while the Affordable Care Act has provided much needed health care to some, it fails to better health care for the vast majority of Americans. And you can see that my topic is here. We know that I'm going to be talking about healthcare in broad terms, the Affordable Care Act in specifics. I make a claim, and my claim is that the Affordable Care Act fails to better healthcare for the vast majority of Americans, and I give you some reasoning for that. I also talk about the opposition, which is that it's provided much needed healthcare to some. So you can tell how I'm going to evaluate it and what I'm going to do. Um, in the same general vein, this other thesis could work as well. Access to health care is a basic human right. The Affordable Care Act provides to all Americans, even if there are those who claim it is too liberal. So you see, my opposition are those who claim that it's too liberal. The claim that I'm making is that the Affordable Care Act provides basic human right, which is health care. As long as all of these things are in your thesis, you should be in good shape. But keep in mind that this first paragraph, your introduction, you will establish the criteria. How will you evaluate whether or not this thing is or isn't what you say it's going to be? The next paragraph should establish common ground. So part of a Rogerian argument is that you actually acknowledge that there are things that we have in common. So whether you're on the side that says the Affordable Care Act is a bad thing or you were on the side that said the Affordable Care Act is a good thing, there are things that both parties can agree on. And that's what you establish here, is that we do have common ground. There are things that we agree on, both sides can agree on. So depending on what your topic is, you're looking for those things that both sides can agree on. You acknowledge in the following paragraph your opposition. So this is clearly stating the opposition's point. So here we've established that we do have things in common. Here's exactly what they argue, why they say that it's wrong, or doesn't work, or however they disagree with you. You're not refuting them, you're simply acknowledging them. However, you need to make a point of saying, even though they claim these things and there is some validity to their argument, it doesn't take away from the argument that you're making. So again, this is part of that common ground. Rogerian argument is not one that's going to come out and just say that the opposition is wrong. It's one that says you have valid points. However, that doesn't change the fact that my side of the argument still holds. Evaluation paragraphs. Pay special attention to this paragraphs. This is going to take multiple paragraphs. This is the bulk of your body. This is what's actually building the argument that you're making. So make sure that based on the criteria that you established in your introduction, you talk about how your side of the argument, whatever that might be based on your topic, stacks up. You're using facts, you're using opinions, but you have to have research that backs this up. So every single one of these paragraphs, short of maybe your introduction, maybe your conclusion, is going to have research. Ultimately, you're going to conclude your argument with a conclusion in which you explain why the opposition would benefit from seeing things from your perspective. So again, not saying that the opposition is wrong, simply saying while we disagree on certain points of this, here's how it would benefit the other side to see things from my way. Just keep in mind this is a research paper and that everything's going to have to be backed with research. from reliable and credible sources. So make sure that you are paying attention to your sources and that they are reliable and credible. It is 12-point font, standard margins all the way around, 2 to 4 pages, and that doesn't include your works cited page. And you'll have to have 4 to 6 sources as a minimum and proper MLA documentation. Penalty for MLA documentation not being appropriate this week is going to be harsher than it was last week. As we move forward, I expect you to be able to correct the errors that you have made in the past. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email me, and good luck.